in duration. Don't feel like you have to use the whole minute. Republicans control a supermajority in the Virginia House of Delegates. And the 48th is the wealthiest delegate district held by a Democrat in that House of Delegates. Two of President Obama's top dollar precincts nationally came out of the 48th. One in McLean, one in Arlington. Having said that, do you believe it's a primary responsibility of a delegate from a safe, blue, wealthy district to help raise money to win back seats for the Democrats? And if so, how would you go about doing that? And if you really want to get specific, what kind of dollar sum do you think is appropriate for you guys to contribute in that vein? And this one starts with Andrew.
I think it's a great question. I'll answer the second part first. When you look at what our fellow Arlingtonian delegates have raised over the last few years, generally every cycle they're raising somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000, and they're donating to party groups about half to two-thirds of that. So I think that's a reasonable amount for an incumbent to raise. In the first cycle, I think what you're going to be trying to do is not only raise money. Dollars are great. I work in development for a living. But what we talk about at Waiting to Marry, and what we've talked about throughout my career in helping build communities and building vision, is that you have to have something besides just the ask. You have to make a connection with who you're trying to connect with. If we want to stay inside the 48th district, we're going to be very successful within the 48th district. If we want to make a cohesive case for the majority, a cohesive case for why our vision is better, frankly, than what the other side has to offer, it can't just be about dollars. It has to be articulating a vision to our neighbors throughout the Commonwealth.
George, I'm of the view that a crucial requirement for the person who occupies this seat is to get us back to 51. We need to get our majority back in the House of Delegates. I have done more than my share of knocking on doors, but I am the only candidate up here who has, for instance, formed a PAC, the Blue Dominion Majority PAC, which was dedicated to electing Democrats through innovative techniques around the Commonwealth. I established that with leaders like Anish Chopra and Scott Searle. I was counsel to the Obama re-elect in 2012, protecting the right to vote, fighting voter suppression efforts, and indeed on election day we were in court in Richmond trying to reduce those long lines. I know how to build the infrastructure to help elect Democrats around the state. I've helped do it. And I am committed to using this seat to grow the Democratic caucus. I will not be content to just show up and vote. I want to help Patrick Hope, Scott Searle, and our leader David Toscano lead us back to the majority. We need to elect Kathleen Murphy in the 34th. We need to find 54 more votes in the 86th and elect Jen Boysko. I'm ready to help lead that effort. And George, are you in for $100?
I'm definitely committed to raising money for the caucus. I think it's exceptionally important for us to get a majority, as my colleague has just mentioned. Some of the things that I would try to do to increase funding and contributions would be, for instance, to engage communities that haven't regularly been engaged in the political process. Communities that are very well off economically, very high education, but haven't been as engaged in the political process, such as the Arab American community and the Muslim American communities. I would also make sure that I do everything I can to encourage my colleagues to help candidates running such as Atif Carney, who ran successfully against Bob Marshall, to ensure that we try to do whatever we can to help our fellow Democrats, our candidates, to get that majority.
Of course, I agree that it's the profound responsibility of a delegate to work toward getting back the majority in Richmond. And I think there are a couple of ways that I would aim to do that. One is to actually reach out to the middle, right? To voters on both sides of the aisle that actually have an interest in democratic values but may not be, or democratic issues but may not be mainstream lockstep democratic voters. And I think it's important to remember that Republicans and centrist Democrats have issues in pro-choice, they have interest in access to health care, they have interest in transportation, and they can be potential contributors on these particular issues. I also think the way we frame the issues is very important in terms of, again, framing them in a way that reaches out to people that may not necessarily be donors. And also, I'm committed to campaigning for other candidates, particularly those who are in vulnerable seats.
I've done a lot of fundraising. I've been on the side of asking, and I've been on the side of getting phone calls. And the most important thing when you make an ask for money is that you have to believe in the cause. And the person on the other side of the phone can tell if you do, and you got to really believe in it. So I know that when you are fundraising, that you have to really believe in the cause, and I believe in this cause. This is something passionate I'm about the importance of getting to a majority. Where do you start? You start here in Northern Virginia with these seats that are trending Democratic, like have been mentioned, Ateem Carney's seat, Kathleen Murphy's seat, Jennifer Boysko. You've got to get them over the finish line this cycle. That's where you start, and then you got to spread the field. You've got to go all through Virginia. You've got to recruit good candidates. We need a candidate running in each district. That means you're going to have to make the tent bigger and attract some moderate Democrats to run in those rural areas. But we have to have candidates out there to get to 51. That's the strategy.
I absolutely agree with everyone up here that fundraising in this seat is essential. But raising money isn't the only thing to getting back to 51. We need to be out there, and we need to be developing future candidates. We need to be looking and talking with future civic leaders and current civic leaders who might have an interest in running for office. And we need to be supporting them with a specific strategy. We need to short, mid, and long-term goals and help them achieve those goals to take back the majority. Thank you.
So I'm definitely the only candidate up here as the president of the National PAC. The Young Democrats of America, while it still works with the DNC, it has its own independent 527 organization and hybrid super PAC. Along with 8 other board members, we spent lots of time raising over $100,000 for the campaign election cycle. I also advocate all the time for Democratic candidates, and it's something that I expect to do in this position. Working definitely to talk to people who are interested in giving on the various issues that interest them, whether it's healthcare or immigration reform. Additionally, working with PACs who benefit from actually having 51 Democrats in the House. Those are the only way that we're actually going to ever increase the majority is by bringing a lot of stakeholders to the table and working hard to raise money. I ideally think over 100,000 makes the most sense. I'm very used to call time and never too afraid to hustle for a buck for the cause.